Imagine a wall of liquid rolling toward you at 35 miles per hour, but it is not water. It is molasses. The date was January 15, 1919. The place was Boston's North End, near Commercial Street, where a huge steel storage tank stood beside a working waterfront. The tank was about 50 feet tall. It held roughly 2.3 million gallons of molasses. That molasses was not there for pancakes. It was industrial cargo, used in the production of alcohol. Just after midday, people heard a deep roar. Some accounts describe metal groaning, rivets snapping, and then a sound like a freight train crashing through the street. The tank failed. For a few seconds, the phrase "slow as molasses" stopped making sense. A massive brown wave surged into the neighborhood. Reports describe it rising around 15 feet high and moving as fast as 35 miles per hour. The force came from weight, height, pressure, and gravity. Once that much dense liquid was suddenly released, it behaved less like a spill and more like a moving wall. Buildings were smashed. The local firehouse was damaged. People, horses, carts, and debris were swept into a flood that was heavy enough to shove through the ordinary city. Then the physics changed again. Molasses is dense and extremely viscous. It is also temperature sensitive. Warm molasses can move more easily. Cold molasses thickens. So after the first fast wave, the January air helped turn the disaster into a trap. Victims were not just knocked down. Some were pinned in a cooling, suffocating sludge. Rescue workers had to fight through a substance that grabbed boots, tools, stretchers, and bodies. Firefighters, police, Red Cross workers, sailors, and neighbors rushed in, but the street itself had become dangerous to cross. By the end, 21 people were dead, and about 150 were injured. The company behind the tank argued that sabotage might have caused the disaster. This was 1919, and political violence was a real fear in the United States. But the evidence pointed somewhere less dramatic and more damning. The question became whether the tank had been safe enough to hold what the company put inside it. The legal fight lasted for years. In 1925, Auditor Hugh Ogden issued a report after hundreds of days of testimony. He concluded that the disaster came from structural failure and a lack of proper safety consideration in the design. That is why this story matters in classrooms. It is strange enough to remember, but it is not a joke. The Boston molasses flood is a lesson in stored energy, fluid dynamics, material limits, inspection, and accountability. A cylinder can look still while pressure builds inside it. A liquid can look harmless until millions of gallons move at once. And a city can learn too late that public safety depends on calculations nobody should be allowed to skip.